Does anybody else think it's weird how little kids are, like, invincible? When I was in elementary school, I would climb to the very top of the playground and just jump off over and over. Yet, miraculously, I was always fine afterward. I mean, maybe not in the head, considering my idea of fun was hurling myself off a 10-foot metal structure. It's amazing I never broke a bone, considering how often I dove out of trees and flung myself off swing sets. But that's not to say I never got hurt when I was younger. Sure, I didn't have any chronic injuries, but I got my fair share of bumps, cuts, and bruises. I remember, for fun, my dad used to wrap me up in a bedsheet and spin me around in circles outside. I loved it. Even at 5 years old, I was an adrenaline junkie. Some things never change. Anyway, one day we're out enjoying our makeshift gravitron when my dad spins me a little too fast and starts to lose control. I imagine at this point I'm laughing my head off as my dad desperately tries to regain control of this tumultuously tumbling toddler. But you'd be surprised how hard it is to hold on to a screaming, squirming 5-year-old spinning in a circle around your head at Mach 1. He loses his grip, and I go flying head first into the cement siding of our house. Ironically, I don't remember much after that, or before that, or during that, because I had a concussion, and a bad one too. I was rushed to the hospital. They looked me over, and I was okay despite having been not just dropped on my head as a child, but actively chucked sideways into a house. I couldn't remember a lot of details about where I was or what had happened, but I did remember one thing. Before the incident, my two sisters had agreed to play Play-Doh with me, one of my favorite pastimes. After getting back from the hospital, apparently the first thing I did was turn to them and say, "Are we still playing Play-Doh later?" That scared the crap out of them because they assumed I couldn't remember anything. To them, me remembering our Play-Doh plans was divine intervention from God himself. And of all the things he chose to remind me of, it was our prior agreement for playtime. Man's got his priorities. Honestly, I'm just glad there weren't any neighbors watching at the time, because to them, the guy across the street essentially puts his kid in a bag, spins him around a bit, and then chucks him headfirst into a cement wall. I mean, that is what happened, but any onlookers might have called Child Protective Services, and that would have only compounded the panic my parents were no doubt feeling at the time. But of course, I was fine, and I'm sure there aren't any lingering effects as a result of me being dropped on my head as a child. Besides, even if it was a terrible experience, it's not like I remember any of it. In contrast, I definitely remember my first sliver. Before we got the house that my cranium was rocketed into, we lived on a farm out in the boonies. One day I was walking around this old abandoned shed with one of the farm dogs because on a farm without internet, the closest thing you could get to scrolling on TikTok was poking around half-destroyed buildings. The dog looked pretty bored, and frankly I was too, when I noticed a discarded plank of wood lying on the ground. Naturally, my infantile brain made the connection, dog plus wood equals fetch, so I called the dog over, picked up the board with my bare hands, and I forehanded that sucker like I was Paul Macbeth on the last hole of the season. Pain. Immediate, searing, inconsolable pain concentrated in the middle of my thumb. Yeah, hot tip? Don't try to put side spin on a piece of wood because the twisting action will lodge a sliver so deep into your finger it would hurt less to take the whole arm off. My mom heard my cries of despair, rushed outside, and asked me what was wrong. I showed her my thumb and told her the story. Honestly, if I were in my mother's position, sure I'd be concerned, but part of me would be thinking, did I raise you this way, or are you just naturally kind of an idiot? It's the latter. Mom, parenting was in no way responsible for my lack of brain cells. Well, actually, maybe it was. Anyway, my mom brings me inside. She's in the middle of visiting with a friend who I can only imagine was also a mom because without missing a beat, she whips out a pair of tweezers and starts digging around in my thumb. That never made sense to me because my mom is a nurse, so shouldn't she be the one to do it? Either way, that hurted. But eventually they got it out, and I got a glass of orange juice and a bag of those Scooby-Doo gummies out of it, so I see it as an overall win. And then I guess I didn't get hurt for 10 years, because the next couple stories I can remember happened when I was 15 or 16. The first happened at my local youth group. Me and a bunch of other kids were sitting around in a circle playing Never Have I Ever or something when I decided to play some music. We didn't have any speakers, but we did have this big glass bowl. I remembered the trick where you put your phone in a cup to amplify the noise and figured the bowl would work pretty much the same. I started playing music, put my phone in the bowl, and as soon as I set it down, the bowl shattered. A shard of glass about an inch long lodged itself in my left hand just under my thumb, and I had to call my parents to come pick me up. It didn't hurt that bad, and it only left a small scar, but the blood. A cartoonish amount of blood. We didn't have bandages, so I covered the wound with tissues instead, and I swear I went through an entire box. I'm still not sure why the bowl broke so easily, but my guess is that the sound waves from my phone actually made the glass more brittle, so when I set it down, it exploded. You know how people can shatter wine glasses with their voice? I think I accidentally did that with my phone. Otherwise, it was a pretty mundane injury, but the sheer amount of blood I lost that day is still etched into my memory. About a year after the glass bowl incident, I was biking home from school or a haircut or a Minecraft LAN party. I was rounding the last corner and... Alright, I'm not the only one who tries to look cool by leaning in when they turn on their bike, right? That's what you do on a motorcycle, and it looks pretty sick, so I tried it. I leaned over a little too far, and I fell off my bike, and completely scraped the left side of my body against the road. In so doing, a pebble had lodged itself in my arm right down to the bone. I got home, and after we painfully dug it out, my mom suggested I go to the hospital to get stitches. Now, I'm not afraid of needles, but something about the idea of stitches really rubs me the wrong way. You want to stick a syringe in my arm for a vaccine or to draw some blood? Yeah, sure, go for it. You want to sew fabric into my skin like some kind of Frankenstein human plush toy? Absolutely not. My skin will heal on its own, thank you very much. So for about 2 months, I just covered this gaping hole in my arm with a big band-aid. I did lots of stretches to make sure my skin would grow back correctly, and now I have a circular scar the size of a pebble just above my elbow. In hindsight, maybe I should have gotten stitches, if nothing else at least to say I've had stitches in my life and that I was brave enough to go get them. But who knows? Maybe someday I'll, as a random example, get thrown headfirst into a concrete wall. Then I'll have my opportunity to go get stitches and prove what a big, strong boy I am. Oh well, at least this way it makes for a good story. And good content. Speaking of good content, like the video if you enjoyed, it would mean the world, and subscribe if you're into this kind of content. It is not easy to make, so your support is very, very much appreciated. As always, an extra special thank you to Mythica, Sphere's Edge, Elliot, Catherine, whatever people, and Naaman Maze for your support as channel members. And hey, if people like this video, I might make a part 2. I've actually hurt myself a lot more than just this, believe it or not. Well, that's it for me. Hasta la pasta, bye!